Did you know that happiness is a choice? Happiness is something that you can actually have an influence on. And I know this might sound a little bit unusual, maybe even a little bit radical, maybe nonsensical, right? How can we be happy when something negative happens or something that we supposedly don't want to happen, but it does happen? How can we be happy in that situation? Well, if you think about it, any experience or any situation that happens in your life, it's not only just that experience or situation, right? It's also how you perceive that experience or situation, right? You always hear that expression, perception is reality. And this is so true in our own lives, right? Sometimes something maybe isn't as bad as it seems, but our perception makes it appear far worse than it actually is. Or something is perhaps good for us, but maybe our perception doesn't really align with that. And so how we perceive things can make all the difference. A great example is the weather, right? Some of us probably don't like when it's gloomy and overcast and rainy, but does that really change who we are as a person? Does that change the happiness that we can have that day? If you think about it, the answer is no. But for a lot of us, that can change our mood definitely because we're not aware of it. We give the external environment or the weather much greater control over happiness than it actually does. And so we feel, oh my goodness, it's overcast today. I don't want to go anywhere. And I'm feeling a little blue or depressed today. But it doesn't have to be the case, right? Some person might love an overcast day. They might love staying at home and watching a movie and just enjoying kind of the cozy environment of, a cloudy day, especially if you live, where I live, where it's always sunny all the time, or apparently always sunny all the time. So perception is everything. And therefore, if perception is everything, then happiness must be a choice. In almost every case imaginable, happiness can be found if we approach it with the right perception. Now, you might be thinking, well, then, if happiness is a choice, why are so many people in the world sad? Why are they unfulfilled? Why don't they just wake up and do this, right? I mean, that's a great question, right? Why is there so much unfulfillment in the world? Restlessness, uneasiness, anxiety, depression, sadness, sorrow, however you want to describe it. Why is that there's so much of that in the world? Well, I think it's because not everyone has realized it yet that they do have the control, that they can get out of their misery and their suffering. That, yes, of course, there are certain things that they can't control, but they can control how they respond to that situation. And sometimes that is more than enough. That is more than what's required to truly be happy. You know, you would think that living in a Western country like the United States or some of these other Western countries that we'd be the happiest people in the world. But they've actually done surveys and they found that the United States is probably in the 30s in terms of the happiest people in the world. There are actually other countries that are on the surface poorer than the United States or not as blessed with the resources that the United States supposedly has, but are actually happier as people, are happier with the limited means that they have because it's about their perception, right? You can have the biggest mansion with 10 different cars and servants and waiters and maids and everything around you, but you could still feel empty. You can still feel like you don't have anything. Sometimes when I see kind of driving along the coast, sometimes see these, multi-million dollar houses, I sometimes wonder, are these people really happy? They seemingly have it all from a materialistic perspective. They have a beautiful house, a nice view of the beach, living in a great place. It must seem like they were living the American dream or they're having some degree of happiness, but it's a matter of perception. Some of those homes, unfortunately, are empty or they're filled with people who are struggling with some sort of a sickness. If not a physical sickness, then some sort of a mental ailment or a mental blockage that is preventing them from actually seeing the beautiful things in life. Perhaps to them, that might not even be enough, and they might aspire towards more, right? So you see how happiness is a choice. Even people that seemingly have nothing can be so grateful, can be so appreciative that they actually have everything. Abundance is theirs. So this is what I mean by, we have the choice, we have the ability to be happy, but it's something that has to be cultivated. It's a mindset. It's a mindset that needs to be cultivated, right? If you think about it, the mind is the center of all decisions. The body is only as good as the mind allows it to be. And so everything that you filter in your mind, you have to be conscious of what is actually coming in. Just like you're conscious of what you're eating, just like you're conscious of who you're spending time with, just like you're conscious of what time you go to bed or how much you're exercising, etc., etc., you also have to be conscious of your thoughts. Because guess what? You only sleep 8 hours a day. You only exercise a couple hours a day. You only interact with people a couple hours a day. But you are thinking every single second of the day. So if you can't control your thoughts, or if you can at the very least be aware of your thoughts, then that will overtake and overpower everything else that you're doing, right? If you, for example, are concerned about your weight and you feel like you are not at the weight that you need to be, if you try all sorts of diet and exercise and everything, but you're not actually focused on the thoughts themselves, then you're not actually addressing the root issue. You may achieve your goal, but chances are you'll slip back into a state where you're still not happy with your body. You're still not happy with yourself because you haven't taken the time to address the real issues, which is the thoughts that are leading to the unhappiness surrounding your body. So therefore, it's so important to focus on the mind. I did a few videos on a couple of months back ago on Buddha's Dhammapada, which is a collection of some of his teachings in verse, where he talks a lot about training the mind and how it's through training the mind and being aware of the mind that we can actually achieve nirvana, that we can actually break free from the cycle of endless suffering and endless delusion and endless unhappiness. It's through the mind, right? And that's why we meditate. That's why we practice mindfulness, is so that we can develop that awareness. We can actually channel and go deeper within ourselves. So it's important to number one, realize that you have the choice to be happy. It's all a matter on you. But also, how do you actually do it? Well, it starts with the mind. It starts with being aware of what's actually going on in your head. And this is something we can all do, right? I know I've encountered some folks before who are unfortunately so lost into their thoughts. They need a lot of work. They need to kind of start with baby steps and start small. But hopefully that's not the case with you. And if it is the case with you, that's perfectly fine as well, also, right? We all start from somewhere, but you can start today to be more mindful of your thoughts. You can start today to be more positive, to be more grateful, to recognize what you have versus what you don't have. These are the things that will influence your happiness. It's these behaviors, it's these thoughts that will lead to happiness. Not what you can get or who can be around you or what you can accumulate in the external environment. It's what you accumulate or uncover in the internal environment. That is the true source of happiness, right? That is that secret or the key to happiness, right? Is not what's outside, it's what's inside. And of course, the outside, there's things that can bring us momentary joy and momentary satisfaction. But if we're not happy on the inside, then the external stuff is just fleeting. It will only be here today, but tomorrow it won't be. But if you're constantly in a state of joy, constantly in a state of gratitude and appreciation, well, then you'll always be happy. You'll be so happy, in fact, that you don't even know what to do with it. It almost kind of feels unnatural because you previously thought that happiness is a binary state. You can either be happy or sad, or it's kind of like a wave. You have moments of happiness, but then they're followed by sadness, and then followed by moments of emptiness, but then something makes you happy again. It doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be this wild roller coaster ride that has its ups and downs. It can be something that's constant. It can be something that's eternal, something that's everlasting, as long as you realize that you have the control, you have the choice. So I hope you guys actually take the time to internalize this and to believe in it and to see for yourself how much control you really have. It reminds me of a famous line by Rumi where he says, why do you stay in the prison when the door is wide open? Why do you stay in the prison of your thoughts when the door of freedom is wide open? When the door to happiness is wide open? It's all on you. That is the beauty of life. That no matter how difficult it gets, no matter how painful it can be sometimes, we still have that control over our own happiness. And as I say this, I'm actually getting a low battery message, so that's probably an indication that I need to wrap up this video. But please take a moment to let me know what your thoughts were. If you liked the video, if you have any sort of thoughts or observations yourself, I always love hearing them and responding to them. Please take also a moment to check out some of the other videos. I talk about this a lot, but I do believe that these videos, while not completely related, are related in some degree in terms of our spiritual awakening process. And I hope you guys find some value from them. But I'll try to cut this off before my battery cuts me off. And I just want to thank you guys again for watching the video, for being such strong supporters of the channel. And I look forward to speaking with you hopefully soon on another one of these videos.